The Age of Enlightenment was responsible for creating an increase in rational and scientific thinking. This resulted in religion losing social and cultural significance and society becoming more circular. However, since the 1960s, we've seen the development of many religious organisations and movements, to the extent that sociologists today argue that many spiritual organisations in society no longer fit in the existing categories. This has resulted in the development of the term new religious movements. One explanation for the significant growth in these new religions is that they are a response to modernity and secularisation, as people seek to re-enchant a disenchanted world. Barker highlights that many of these new movements are in fact developments of pre-existing religion. For example, the Unification Church, also known as the Moonies, which teaches a unique Christian theology. However, new can also suggest a movement being different, perhaps linking to psychoanalysis, science fiction, or politics. Heaven's Gate is an example of a famous new religious movement referred to as a UFO cult, which revolved around members' end goal of reaching the next level.
The basic idea of Heaven's Gate was that you would chemically and biologically transform your body, becoming a next level alien, and then you would physically get on board the UFO, which would sail off into heaven.
It says Heaven's Gate awaiting.
These two examples illustrate why new religious movements are frequently viewed as transgressive, as they are often controversial to the mainstream and bound with violence. New religious movements are very individual and complex, therefore a universal definition can be problematic. However, Roy Wallis attempted to classify new religious movements into three categories. The first typology Wallis described as world-affirming new religious movements. These are the most popular type and seek to offer their members spiritual enrichment. They generally make few demands of their members and lack formal religious doctrine. Secondly, world-accommodating new religious movements. These neither affirm nor reject the world, and they adapt to ensure they live peacefully within it. These movements often aim to restore spiritual purity. Finally, Wallis described world-rejecting new religious movements. These groups do not agree with the current organisation of the world and often seek radical change. They reject the mainstream society and frequently isolate themselves away from it. One infamous example of a world-rejecting new religious movement is the People's Temple, widely known as the Jonestown Massacre, after the tragic death of 909 followers in 1978.
All my life. There's so many wonderful things about it.
This is a beautiful place here, and it's fun over here. It's really good.
I do not want to go back in any way, shape, or form to the States.
I can't help but say that none of this would have been possible had it not been for Jim Jones.
Similar to many world-rejecting religions, a charismatic leader was at the heart of this movement. Jim Jones founded the People's Temple in 1954. At first, he combined Christianity with a socialist ideology and attracted members by preaching about his desired ideal society, emphasising the importance of racial equality in community. Due to his principles, a large number of his followers were African Americans, who at the time would have been discriminated against in the mainstream society. However, his followers did also include people of all races and ages. In 1965, Jones decided to relocate him and his family to California, where he thought people may be more accepting of racial integration. Here, membership grew and further branches opened in San Francisco and Los Angeles. As time progressed, media interest in the group grew, and relatives and former members displayed increasing concerns. Jones and the movement were accused of financial fraud, physical mistreatment of members, and child abuse. In 1977, Jones was under obvious pressure and led his members to a remote settlement in the Guyana jungle, known as Jonestown. The reality of Jonestown was not an idyllic utopia based on equality that members may have hoped for, but more of a prison. Members recall armed guards roaming the grounds, passports, medication, and other belongings being confiscated, and people who questioned Jones's authority being subject to beating. One survivor recalls working 20 hours a day and at one point being awake for 6 days straight. Jones began comparing himself to Jesus Christ and had a throne. Church services became more revolved around himself, and often he would stage fake healings. For example, making a disabled woman walk again, or curing someone with cancer.
You have a bad spinal condition?
Yes.
And your hip is injured?
Yes.
Step from your wheelchair. Begin to step from your wheelchair. Try it. Just try it. Just try it. We have nothing to lose. We have no face to lose because we've said we're no panacea. But I have seen more healings here than I've ever seen any place. I love you. Jesus Christ loves you. Jehovah Jireh. All the goodness of all the world's great religions, in the name and the mercy and the goodness of Jesus, wherein I stand. Come forth, my dear. Stand out. Take that step. Bless your heart. Take that step. Take that step. Now. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward, darling. You can do it. Move forward. Move forward. Child, sweetheart, would you step out of my way just a moment so that I can just keep my love crawling? Now, move forward. Freely, freely, freely. Now begin to exercise the hip. Begin to exercise the joint. I love you. Christ loves you. The people love you. Now, sisters, walk briskly. Walk briskly. Walk.
On November the 17th, 1978, a congressman, Leo Ryan, and reporters were welcomed into Jonestown. They were welcomed by happy crowds. However, quickly circumstances changed. Numerous members approached Ryan seeking help to escape and revealed the inhumane treatment they were subject to.
You bring those kids back here! Hold on a second. You bring them back!
1 second.
The next day, Ryan, his crew, and a small number of members attempted to leave Jonestown. However, were met with open gunfire, leaving 4 dead. Back at the camp, Jones told his followers they would soon be attacked by the government in response to the shooting, and instructed everyone to commit revolutionary suicide. Jones had been preparing for this moment, as often mock suicide drills named the White Nights would take place. The children were killed first, then the adults lined up to drink the poison, surrounded by armed guards. Jones convinced people that this was the only option, and the many members who didn't comply were forcibly injected. Jones then shot himself. Survivors and family members stress the importance of this horrific tragedy being remembered as a mass murder, not a compliant mass suicide. Over 40 years later, and we still question how this religious movement with such good intentions turned into a radical cult. Jones brainwashed his followers and took advantage of their goodwill. Nelson suggests the attraction to the People's Temple was so great as it appealed to the vulnerable, at a time where war, poverty, and inequality was dominant. Followers felt they had been wronged by the government, their community, and were searching for change. This refers to the marginalisation and social exclusion of certain groups in society, and explains the high following of working class and African Americans. Additionally, the People's Temple can be explained as a counterculture, as the church was racially integrated and so its values and organisation differed from the mainstream. Durkheim argued that religion acts as a source of solidarity and identification for individuals. He suggests religion provides a meaning for life, an authority figure, and reinforces moral and social norms. All these features apply to the People's Temple and Jonestown as a community. Jones was the authoritative figure whose teachings gave members a sense of purpose and belonging in the world. However, the People's Temple's beliefs already differed from the mainstream, but as time went on, the differences from societal norms and values grew, explaining why the move to the remote Jonestown was essential for the religion to continue. The People's Temple demonstrates just how complex many new religious movements are, plus shares the sad ending that other groups have experienced. However, it is important to remember that not all new religious movements are transgressive, and the majority are not prone to violence, but research within sociology allows greater knowledge and understanding surrounding these unique groups, which can help prevent similar tragedies in the future.